like maybe one black kid per classroom, and all the teachers were white, and all of them were females. And we had the principal, he was a male teacher. It was a male teacher, and my first he was a principal. And my first male teacher was when I was in the 6th grade. And even though that was the year they integrated, they had T.G. Gibbons Elementary School, and that was an all-black school, and they closed it down like when I was in the 6th grade, and then they started busing those students to the other kind of integrated schools, because it was still all black. And so when they bused those black students to other schools, that's when I felt like I was integrated with my own, race, really, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's Gibbons High School. That's the school they had before Paris High School. I didn't go to Gibbons, but it's just a little history there.
Perfect. Perfect.
I must have been in about the 7th or 8th grade, and I know we started integrating slowly, like 2 students and then 4.
Actually, it was 4 starting out.
The
Right.
first year
Me,
they
my
came.
sister, and 2 more kids. That was in 66.
I guess we were in the 8th grade,
Yes.
7th or 8th grade. And then Roddy and I went to school all through high school. They closed. There was you want to talk about North Lamar?
North
Powderly.
Or South Powder.
South. I went to Powderly, and you went.
To South Powder. And then in 66, we had an option to integrate or not integrate. So there was 4 kids that integrated the first year. And I was the only black guy that was integrated the first year. The next year, they didn't have a choice. So the first year was not a good year. We'll get to that question.
Yeah, I was waiting on that one too.
So, Mr. Dudley, where you went to school, was it an all-black school, South Powderly?
Yes.
Okay. So the second question that you guys asked was, when the schools began integrating, did you find yourself curious and wanting to be friends with the new kids? Or did you keep to your own group and stay away from the new kids?
Well, I tried at first, to kind of interact with the kids, but, there was not too much of that happening. So it got to a point where you kind of stay to yourself. I mean, really to yourself, because I didn't have anybody else in the class but myself.
Was that lonely?
Yes, it was.
Do you want to answer that
When
one?
I think back, I wish I had waited to the next year when everybody integrated.
So I have a follow-up question. Why did you decide to go early?
Well, I had been to the West Coast, and everybody was already integrated in Oakland, California. And I thought, hey, this is what it should be like. No.
Too short, huh?
I tell you.
I'm sorry. Oh,
I think I need to apologize for us being snotty.
Oh, didn't know any better.
But it was something new.
Yeah.
They were new. We weren't used to going to school. It was an all-white school. The black children went down the road a little ways, and it was just new. I think we didn't know what to do.
But the girls, they could be friendly when the guys wasn't around. So
Oh, the guys were
if the
snotty.
guys
we
were,
weren't.
You don't have to be nice to her just because she's here.
Tell it like it is.
Yeah.
Like it was. Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I was in the 6th grade when they closed down T.G. Gibbons Elementary School, which was an all-black school. And I was already, as I said, going to school with whites and blacks. And so we all got along, no problem. But when they closed down T.G. Gibbons and the blacks came to, like I'm not black, the blacks came to our school, oh, it was terrible. I don't remember them even being ugly or angry with the white kids, because they just picked on me. That's the way I felt, because I never saw that. But I'm Uncle Tom, and I'm, because I was the white kids' friends and stuff, so, and we were just playing, and I never did really get to be friends with any of them, because they just always would talk about me, and that was terrible. That was the worst year of my life that I went to school, and I had to continue school with those kids up until graduation, 12th grade. But but as far as whites and blacks back then, 66, it was great. It was good.
So now you say it on the black side, how they didn't really accept you.
Yeah.
When we mix, we understand that concept really well.
Right.
But now, how did the whites, when you first come up in there, did they treat you maybe, or they was kind of open-hearted when y'all started already together?
We started together in the 1st grade,
So
yeah.
it was just natural to everybody.
Right. It was nice.
Okay.
Real
And you never
friendly.
felt
Mm-mm.
segregated in
No.
a sense. Never did.
No, I
And so when these black folks come up over here from Gibbons,
Yeah.
they felt segregated, but they felt
Yeah.
segregated by the black folks.
Right.
Y'all not a part of us because y'all white.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. I understand. Trust.
At your schools, were there any altercations between whites and blacks? Did you experience any violence yourself or witness any that you want to share? And if it makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to.
Oh, I was a crybaby. I didn't fight nobody. I just cried when they talk about me. I was in the principal's office like that. Or they would send me, because I'm all upset and stuff. But I didn't have any fights. I didn't. Even all the way through high school with the same people, they still was acting the same way. Can you imagine that? People still, walking the halls talking crazy to you, and you're that age, and they're still acting like that. I can't, I know it happens, but oh man, it's terrible. I hope any of you are not like that, because that's terrible to be like that. To talk about other people and like that. That's terrible. If you have something, I don't even supposed to be talking about all that, do I? But that's just growing up. It's terrible to be in that environment when you're around people you go to school with and you see them every day, and then they picking at you and all that kind of. And see, it still bothers me, don't it? Yeah. And now I feel like, am I supposed to be friends with these people? Because they act like they just love me now. Since when you get grown and all that, they act like they just love you, but then they forget about how they treated you back then, But I have to forgive, right? We have to. But you can't forget, so how can you, Okay, move on.
I think I must have had my head in the sand, because one thing, my mother worked at school, so the kids were probably not gonna fight in front of me because they thought I would tell her, and she was right there by the principals. So I didn't know that there was any violence going on, but Lottie tells me there was.
My sister actor, she experienced a lot of, cause she sat like on the second row, like with a guy with the cowboy hat on there. And 4 or 5 kids in the back of her would chew up these spitballs and shoot them through straws. And the teacher's sitting here, I'm the teacher, and she told the teacher, then she told me, my parents went up, and it just kept on, and it never did stop. And they were shooting her like 8 and 9 times, I mean, with these spitballs that they chewed up.
That's disgusting.
But that was the first
It
year
really
we
is.
was up there. I mean, now the second year, it was, when all of the kids came up, and there was one altercation, you know, cause just the N word come out in the back of the class, and when we looked back, I mean, it was 2 guys back there, and they tore up the whole back room back there. After that, things kind of settled down. I mean, but it was, we're talking about 67 here, so y'all probably saw some of the movies back in the South. You know, in Texas is about as far as South you can get, other than Florida, so. And I'm just telling it like it was. I mean, it wasn't that good. My buddies tell me about the good old days. I said, yeah, the good old days. If you were white, maybe. You know, I talked to my buddy at the Atwoods about the good old days, and it wasn't good at all.
I have a question for you. Do you think, because the second year when all they came, the teachers of course came too, and they had a principal, Mr. Brown.
Right.
Mr. Brown didn't put up with anything.
No, he
He
did
didn't
not.
care if you were white, black, white. I'm thinking maybe some of it stopped that second year because he was there.
It probably did.
I have a question for Ms. Dudley. Now, you said that they was hard on your sister the first year. And with you being a brother, I guess you older than your sister?
No, she was a senior and I was her freshman.
Okay, all right. Well, was she, you know, did you feel obligated, like, hey, I need to try to do something for my sister though?
Yeah, I
Even though
did,
it
but
might have
you-
been repercussions follow, but did you,
'Cause
did
I
your
talked-
dad maybe enforce, hey, son, I need you to go handle this for me?
Well, he went up after I talked to the teacher first, and then I talked to the principal. And the teacher claimed he didn't see anything going on, but you know, he had to, these spitballs flying in the back of her head, so. But things got better, but when you're trying to concentrate on all this stuff, I mean, it's kinda hard to really get into your learning.
And when you say concentrate on what? Keeping your life from being harmed, or just trying to, what was you trying to, just because of the atmosphere itself?
Right,
I mean,
you're there to learn, and you got all these distractions, you know,
negatives,
right.
these, just straight.
And you hear a lot of stuff,
disrespect.
you know, you just kinda let it go in one ear and out the other one, you just keep, you know, it keep coming. And I know it's hard for you all to kinda understand this, but like I said, 67 wasn't a good year.
But 65 is when they integrated, correct? They put it all together? Is that correct?
No, we had an option in 60, see, different schools did it at different times.
Okay.
Because Paris High actually integrated before North Lamar did.
And you guys remember Brown v. Board was 54, full integration was supposed to happen in 55, and we're talking about the 60s when they were given the option. So this is over a decade later, we still haven't fully integrated here in Texas. How did you feel about integration? Were you upset? Were you angry? Were you scared?
Scared.
Did it bother you at all?
With me, when they closed down T.G. Gibbons, and you know, like you said, every day you have to go and put up with this stuff every day. It kind of makes you not want to go to school, you know. It makes you uncomfortable, you know, like if you're with your friends and a crowd standing over there just, you know, talking about you and all that kind of stuff. And oh, they could curse. Whew. Those kids could, I don't even curse now, I never did, but they could curse you out. But you know what they couldn't do in the classroom? They couldn't read. Because you know how in classes you have to read out loud sometimes? They read like, we were like in the 6th grade, and they read like little first graders or something, most of them. Yeah, and I'm, oh, what?
Uh.
Yeah, like a little stumbling over words, little bitty words. Yeah,
You can see where
okay.
education was important to
Yeah.
black folks, where white folks really didn't care what their kids was up in that.
No, it was the blacks that couldn't read.
Black folks.
See,
couldn't
I was white back then.
Okay. But, alright, so the black folks was having trouble, but that's just because of the life that was already being lived, being slaves and all. They weren't.
But they went to
opportunity.
they went to school over at T.G. Gibbons, all black school with all black teachers. But then when they came to First Ward, it was all white teachers, and it was already mixed, with black and white kids, and that's what I'm
That says a
saying.
lot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's interesting.
Ooh.
What about you two? I guess you were excited because you'd been to Oakland and then you came back and it wasn't so exciting.
Well, you kind of, wonder why it was such different in the West Coast and in the South. I mean, but later on you kind of got the big picture here, so.
Yeah.
But it was still hard to just kind of take it in. I mean, when I walk through that door, you look at the color of my skin and it's automatically a whole different ball game. I mean, and it's almost like I don't know if the parents, they got it from the parents. I mean, kids 14, 15 years old, I mean, it's hard for them to feel that way, but they did. But I think it was most the parents.
My parents must have been unusual because they did not say anything negative about it. I was 8th grade or freshman, and that's what was happening, and you go with it and you be nice.
But it does seem like a learned behavior when you're that young because you don't have your own opinions just yet.
But maybe not so much they didn't say nothing about it, but also they didn't teach you neither though, right? Of black folks or whatever, I'm trying to say, like, you're gonna, how would you say it? That you need to be respectful. I mean, they probably taught you to be respectful of all, but maybe not, to have this coming into school and stuff, you said, we didn't really, you didn't know how to act. It was all new to you. Instead of your family saying, hey, we're all people out here. Whatever comes in, comes out, we're the same. We gotta be, acceptance. But maybe you didn't feel that acceptance at first, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I did, even though I didn't know, I knew there's something different over here coming. You understand what I'm saying?
And I would have never been allowed to be disrespectful to one of the teachers when they came over,
The black teachers.
Right.
But what about a student?
I don't think I would have been. I don't think
Not that you would have been, but it wouldn't have been, you wasn't taught to not be though. If you felt,
No.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Cause you're saying that, your family was, they never taught you to be mean or whatever, but at the same time, they didn't teach you not to be towards black folks. You understand what I'm trying to say? They really teach you, hey, we're coming, we're fixing to segregate here and come together, and we want you to treat them with the same respect you would as a white girl to go to school with your church. Bring her over and eat some
I
lunch.
wasn't allowed to be mean to them, for
Right.
sure.
Well, could she have shared your lunch with you? Could you and Mr. Dudley share lunch together at the table?
I don't know.
That wouldn't have happened.
Right,
It wouldn't have
exactly.
happened.
My
But
little
without being
friends,
taught
we
that.
would have.
She said, y'all
Yeah,
started
we
off.
was-
Started out.
Yeah, we
Y'all didn't
started
know any
out
different
together.
from little
Right.
kids. Y'all didn't know any different.
You see what I'm saying? With your
Yeah.
family, they's teaching you, but they didn't maybe,
Good question. I'm not sure.
yeah.
Cause it was coming from the top down, cause I had made some friends with some of the girls there, and the principal would tell them, hey, y'all don't need to be hanging around with those colored people, those colored guys, mainly the colored boys, they would say.
Right.
So, the students wasn't taught, hey, everybody is integrated here, let's get along. That didn't happen.
Even when
But
Mr.
in
Brown
high
stepped
school,
in?
they was taught that y'all were all the same, and y'all were
Yeah.
taught that y'all were all.
Right, yes.
So that's different in the different schools,
Sure is.
everybody was different.
Not that many years apart either.
Right.
Mr. Brown, now, was he a white man or black man?
Black.
Black man, no, he teach.
Mr. Brown, he could pass. So, most people thought he was white.
Okay,
And we had
he was yellow bone.
really young bone. He could pass, I put it that way. And there was places that he did pass.
Right. And he knew how to use it.
Was
That's how he became the principal.
was he the principal out at Powderly, or was he the assistant principal when he came over?
He was the principal
For Aaron Parker.
at South Powderly.
Uh-huh.
He took over. And things changed at South Powderly when he took over. I mean, because when he took over, they would bring us food, lunch. We had cornbread, pinto beans, and mashed potatoes. That was it. 5 days a week. So Mr. Brown came in, he went up to the school and said, "What's going on up here?" So we thought we was eating at a restaurant.
Oh,
Because he come out, we had green beans, mashed potatoes, coals. I mean, we had all chicken fried steak.
So we had some food for real.
So
It was the same meal every day?
same meal every day. Yes, I mean, same meal. You can
And
ask
you guys complain
anybody.
about the food here.
Same stuff.
I know.
But Mr. Brown got in a lot of trouble, but back then, you got whippings. I mean, you got the board, and he had spanked some white kids, and the parents come up, he threatened them. And if you don't want them spanked, send them to another school, so.
Or teach them better.
Teach them, yeah, how to act.
Were you guys excited to go to a new school? Or excited, I guess, Mr. Dudley, and were you excited at first?
Kinda, sorta.
Yeah. And then reality set in. Was it exciting to have the other kids come into school? It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Well, I mean, I guess we were a little apprehensive because we didn't know what was gonna, we didn't know how they were gonna act. Or we didn't know how we were gonna act,
And I keep saying 6 and 7, but that's when the lady went to, was that Arkansas? They had to get the National Guard to go with her, just to go to her classrooms every day.
You guys remember that?
Yes.
I mean, we're talking, that was the same year, I think, so.
She showed us a clip.
Miss Elizabeth Eccles, or Eckert, what was her name?
You said cornbread, potatoes, and what else?
Mashed potatoes.
Red beans, I mean,
Red
that was
beans.
every day. I mean, every day.
Till
Like
Mr.
red
Brown
beans
got there.
now?
Yeah, still is.
Still like
Cause most of the time we had them when we went home, had red beans twice a day.
Either way, we was eating beans. It was just what it was.
Do you three think things have gotten better over the last few decades?
I thought it, 50 years later, I thought things were better, but, it's not much better. I mean, really, I'm just being honest. I mean,
Listen up in the back.
it's a different, I guess it's a different kind of racism, but it is, the last few years, I mean, it's almost like you take 20 steps forward and take 50 backwards.
The sky's different.
Yeah.
What you saying?
And this, this is 2022 and still, man, it's really, that's sad.
Yes. Well, this is where we gotta make the difference. Send our youth. Yeah, it's just real talk, cause we gotta start showing them different. And we done took the Christianity out of schools, and a lot of these homes don't know nothing about it, and, it's a different world, like you said. It's a different world.
And a lot of parents now, they don't, go to school like with their kids, they don't ever show up to show that the kids have support and stuff like that, and you have to be there for them. Yeah,
Yeah, we be a part of the community.
right,
Have to be
yeah.
part of it. And we taught ourselves to be distant. These
Yeah.
phones and these computers. Let COVID come up in here and really do the whoopie wop on us. I don't even know what to say about that one.
Yeah. We send our kids to school, and then we expect the teachers, not we, cause I did, but they expect the teachers to do it, discipline them and take, do everything. And then some of these kids haven't even been disciplined at home. At home their discipline is you screaming at them and to tell them to do something. And then when they go to the teacher and she talks nice, then they don't listen to that, and that's I've seen that. Yeah. Cause I see these little young parents, they just be cursing out and screaming to their little kid, trying to tell them, what to do. And I even told one time, I say, the teacher's gonna have to talk to that kid that same way to get them to do something. I say, so you don't need to talk to them like that. She didn't say, cuss me out or nothing, but I hope she listened, cause that's true.
Have your thoughts or opinions changed over time?
My thoughts about what the way school is, well,
Or just in general,
Just,
about
yeah.
how you view people,
oh.
how you view racism, or how you view integration, and
My thoughts.
we can come back to you. You can think
Yeah,
about
come
this.
back. I hadn't even thought of that.
My hand.
Yeah.
I hope I don't cry. I'm a Christian, so, and you have to stop and think, and I do this, God made all of us. Sometimes I wonder why he made us different, but wouldn't it be a dull world if he had them? But he made all of our skin, he made us the color that we are. And so, I know that God loves us all the same. And I'm back 50 years ago, a little over 50. I didn't know anyone at that time. I didn't know anyone that was in a marriage or even a relationship, like a black and a white, let's say. But now I do. I know several. I have a little great niece that's biracial. I love her mother. Her mother is black, a beautiful black woman. Her daddy's something else, but
Are you
anyway.
blood related to the dad?
But
What about your own children?
we have a little grandson that's full-blood Hispanic. He's adopted, and his skin's pretty dark. His mom and daddy are definitely not, or his brother. I have a daughter, and her husband is Hispanic, and their little boy is half, of course, and the other child's not married. So and we don't see skin. I mean, we see it, of course, but we don't pay attention to skin color at our house. I'm looking at all these pretty skin colors in here, and I think they're all beautiful. And of course, then that means I've changed some from back then, being apprehensive when the black children came to our school. And I hope I was never ever disrespectful or mean. I was good. I know I would have gotten in trouble at home if I had been, and my parents found out about it, because we just didn't do that. Didn't matter. So.
I think that's one of the things, normally you don't put religious in this, but, I guess the churches are the most segregated places there are, even now. I go to different churches, and it's like, I worked at a little small community in Chicago, and I went to church. My friend took me to church there, and she was introducing me to some of the people there, and one of the head deacons, I mean, we're in church now. She introduced me to this guy. I was gonna shake his hand. That's in the church.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
wasn't just him, there's some more. So,
Not much change.
so I asked the guy one day, I said, do you really think it's gonna be a black heaven and a white heaven? And he just sat there and looked, I mean,
He must not have known Jesus was dark.
He don't know Jesus at all.
It don't sound like
you know, and you don't wanna say that about, people, but most of the people that's got more hate in them, they the first ones in church every Sunday morning. And I've experienced this,
As you can see, it still hurts us to have to go through this kind of stuff, even though we went through it way back then. And so we know that for you all, it's not over, it's not over. It's not over. You still got to fight for your rights. And they were talking about in their families, like my family, I have a mixed granddaughter. My son is his daughter. And I'm mixed, really, I probably, if you look around and see anybody that's kind of light-skinned or something, they're gonna be mixed with something. It might not be much, but you're gonna have some Mexican in you. That's where I got Santiago from. My dad, his mom was black and his dad was Mexican. And my mom, for as I know, was all, black. And so, and then on my oldest two kids, they got some of everything on their dad's side. They do. I wish I'd have wrote it all down, so we could remember all that. But cause he's got they had German and they're black and white, and his mother, the grandmother, you could look at her and you saw German in her, and we all have something in us that we're not just straights or whatever. It's a little bit of something. If you do that, what is that, Ancestry.com and all that. I hear people sometime out here on this job, my coworkers and stuff. Oh, she was excited. I got about 5% black in me. I said, well, I got you beat. But I love everybody. I don't have nothing against no color, no race or nothing. I see beauty in it all. And I do. African, I wish I was just black person, just straight black. I do, because I think they are so beautiful. And back then, they didn't they didn't like themselves back, way back then. And you could tell even back in elementary school, I could even tell how teachers would treat the lighter skinned kids and the dark skinned kids. It was a difference. Even the teachers, yeah. I just thought about that when I said that, yeah. So I guess it wasn't exactly like I always, how you kind of think it is. Like you said, you push things back. You don't think about some things, and all. And you just kind of overlook it. So, you just learn to overlook it and go head on. Don't let it bother you. That's a good thing too. Don't let stuff bother you. Just keep on.
The
doing
beautiful
your
black
best.
man laughing at the back with the blue, he is from Africa.
When I said that, he's right here, and I saw him, and yeah, and I really meant what I said, and I love to talk to them. I love to hear their voice, their accent and stuff, because I'm real country. So I love all that. With everybody I talk to that has a different, voice or whatever, I like to hear it.
So not to say that's for all of y'all, but I don't know how you present this question, but now that you've lived and you 60 years, 70 years down the road, whatever, segregation, could they have done it differently? Or integrated black folks, or maybe we shouldn't have integrated. Maybe we should have kept black folks going to school, white folks, and maybe as we went to school raising up, y'all come and figure it out and get out of here something. You know what I'm saying? What would you say is that was the right way to do it? Let's just jump it in here and do the thing. Or, cause like you said, a lot of things still ain't changed. So, I mean, on some level, we haven't moved much. On other levels, maybe we have, and maybe we just try by, you know, in a relationship, we gonna make this happen. But hell, that don't work neither, cause I've not been accepted by black folks, I've not been accepted by white folks, I've been hated by both. You know, I know this is true life, you know, and like, who are you? I don't know who I am. I was adopted too. I got a white family. I'm Jeremy Drover. How you doing? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I felt the pressure, and I was born in '76, so it was still new. It was still kind of new then, you know. So I do understand what you're saying when it's light skinned, or dark. And so, would you say it was a good move to put us all together like we did, or?
Yeah, it had to
It
happen.
need to be,
I mean,
yeah.
we're talking about the southern states here. I mean, everybody else was moving on with everything. It's just the southern states. That's why we had the Civil War. I mean, they flip it around and say it was because of this and because of that, but, you know, the South wanted to keep slavery. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's all it was about. I mean, and all those hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives fighting to keep someone in bondage, slavery. I mean, that's cutting to the bone. I mean, that all those people died, and that's what they was fighting for.
It sometimes gets brought up as a states' rights issue, but what was that state right they were fighting for? What right did the states claim that they wanted to keep having? The right to do what? Have slaves. It comes back down to a slavery issue, right? And that's what he's saying.
Yeah, they flipped it all different ways, and different, but that's mainly what it was all about. And we know what slavery was like.
So maybe they could have gone about it differently, or if y'all had ideas to do it, or like, you know, like a smoother transition. Is there a way to do that? Or no, like I said, let's just see how it goes.
No, not really. I mean, unless we still have all the southern states still had slaves and other states did not, so it just couldn't happen.
It was just a rip the Band-Aid off type of thing. You just had to.
Let's do what we
Yeah,
do.
do it. Did you have a question, Jacob?
Yeah, Mr. Dudley, primarily for you, I was curious, how did you feel like your academics were affected? You mentioned you were distracted by some of the kind of social aspects going on in the school. Did that distract you? Did that overwhelm you? Or
Yes, it
did that
did.
motivate you to prove yourself? What was the result of that?
You tried to prove yourself, but it did, it overwhelmed you. It really did.
Do you guys have more questions? Anything? Do you have any? I feel like some of you have a question, you're just too afraid to ask. Yes, ma'am.
So coming from a Hispanic background, where were the Hispanics? Like how they're probably not treated right either, right?
Did you have any Hispanics out at Powderly that you knew of?
Do we have any?
No.
I think so.
Most of the Hispanics were living inside of the city limit, so Hispanics at your school, at Paris, that you knew of?
Oh, well, I went to school with that Barrio, you know, he was a police officer
Mhm.
I went to school with that family. It wasn't a lot of Hispanics though, yeah.
Most of the time, because it was such a black and white issue, Hispanics just kind of fit in and kind of went unseen because they were seen as white.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten to the Chicano movement just yet, but we'll definitely look at that.
Did you play sports in high school, and did your skin color affect you getting picked for teams or any of that?
Yeah, I played sports, I mean, and it did, affect us, I mean, because in the 10th grade, we had, 5 black guys playing on the team, and when we go out of, out of town to play. After the game was over, we had to be escorted to the bus. And we stopped to eat. Wasn't allowed to go in the restaurant.
Wow.
That's a good question.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, that it was happening so, so close, yeah.
That was even after we integrated. There were still cafes but they still chose to stop at those particular cafes. So
Instead of going
it
where
just
all of you
goes
could go.
back to the upper management.
And you play football, you said what? Basketball?
Basketball, baseball, and football.
Oh, you was in all three?
Yeah.
Did it have track back then?
Yep.
Okay.
So Miss Gage moved to Florida in 1974?
Yeah.
And is that where your husband was gonna start teaching?
Yes.
Do you wanna tell about what happened on the bus or when the kids got
This was in
there?
1974 now. And he went, he had just gotten out of college and he had an ag teaching certificate. We went to this little school and, I don't know, it was a year or so before we were there, not the year we were there. But they were going to integrate that school. It was kind of out in the country, kind of like Powderly. And, they brought a bus with black children in there. And the first one that got off, someone in the crowd, there was a crowd there to meet them, threw a brick at the child and I believe it hit the child in the head. Of course, now we weren't there at the time, so. But, anyway, they got back on the bus and they left. And when we were there in 74, they still were not integrated. I don't know if there were any black children that lived around there. I'm thinking maybe not too close.
Just 20 years after
Yeah.
Brown v. Board, they're still not integrated.
We only stayed there 6 months. He taught school for 6 months and we came home.
Do you guys have more questions? No? Well, let's at least give our group a